This year I'll spend time, as I did in the last session, kind of emphasizing issues of cancer care and prevention in the context of integrative medicine. And last time we spoke about aspects of diet and the things that one might do in terms of prevention and the parameters one might follow. And this year we're going to talk about this time we're going to talk about toxic burden. And it's interesting because I was speaking to a person who is a real student of toxic burden and chronic illness, and we were both commenting on how, in the context of addressing people who have cancer, and I'm talking about cancer that has sort of progressed and whatnot, how little attention is paid to that issue from a specific point of view, although the integrated therapists all do attend to the issue of supporting the detoxification systems. The thing about the idea of, quote, everyone's talking about detox and toxicity, but the truth is that the accumulation of products or chemicals in our bodies that aren't necessarily good for us from a long-term point of view is a natural process. And we're making plenty of products that aren't good for us. We could say they're toxins, but they're just the products of metabolism, and we got to get rid of them. And we have an elegant system for doing that, by and large. Most of us do it just fine throughout a lifetime. And so, you know, there's a very famous scientist named Bruce Ames. He's a PhD biochemist from Berkeley, who's now semi-retired, but he is, in a way of being a provocateur to the overall discussion, he made the point that many of the foods that we think of as being really good for us, the colorful vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds, if you looked at the let's say, toxic burden from eating those alone, it's actually, in his mind, greater than what we get from the environment. But we handle it beautifully, and we're designed to handle it. And many people didn't agree with him, of course, but he was trying to make a point, and I think he got people thinking anyhow. So the food we eat and metabolize produces products we're trying to get rid of, the energy we produce to operate in the world, and then even our thoughts, feelings, and emotions through the autonomic nervous system produce materials that can be injurious to us. So there's the people who have, the most extreme example would be the subgroup of people who have an injury to their heart of a great magnitude from a terrible emotional stress, where they release so much of the fight or flight hormone, epinephrine, that it actually injures their hearts. And it's a well-described phenomena from the physicians at Hopkins, and something that they study continuously. Next. So, but the premise is that we really have very good systems. We're built to get rid of all this stuff, and but they're costly in the sense of the amount of energy they use. The breakdown of how we spend energy on all aspects of living that require new molecule formation is about 80% of the energy we normally expend on a daily basis is spent on the process of molecular transformation necessary for efficient detox. In the doing of it, you have to constantly get rid of free radicals, etc. That's the work of detoxification. Next. And we develop problems when our systems are overwhelmed by chemicals, either internal or external, by products of infections or infections themselves, and by extremes of extreme physical demand, or when we become inefficient in making the energy necessary to support effective detox processes. And we've spoken about this in the past, and we've talked about oxygenation therapies and the importance of optimizing oxygen delivery to the peripheral tissue, and how that is an important thing to, from my perspective, and people who don't feel well chronically, to, one, look at, and two, correct. Next. And toxins are phenomena that can cause disruption in the normal functioning of an individual. They may be physical, energetic, or psychological in nature. And the conditions by which such phenomena can be harmful to the individual need to be met before a problem really develops. Otherwise, we're just fine. And the physical issues can be extremes of temperature or humidity, environmental toxins, such as heavy metals, petrochemicals, organochlorines and organophosphate compounds, toxic byproducts from the normal metabolism of organisms that infect our bodies, candida, Lyme, herpes family of viruses, and prescription and over-the-counter medications, including some of the supplements we use or overuse. Next. Some of the things that are a little more obtuse, but at least some groups of scientists think are relevant, are electromagnetic perturbations from the Earth's geomagnetic fields, electromagnetic fields from household wiring. So in Europe, and particularly Germany, there's special codes for making sure that there is no electromagnetic fields from the wiring, but in the US it's not an issue. And again, I think it's really only the sensitive people that really get into trouble. The same with the electromagnetic effects from cell phone towers, cell phones themselves, cordless phones, etc. Next. You know, every time, when I first was exposed to all this, I thought, God, how do you manage, you know? But the reality is, if you basically take pretty good care of yourself, you can tolerate pretty much all of these things without a big problem. And then the psychological and social phenomena, the post-traumatic stress issue, which is now, I think, finally come to our awareness as a result of the difficulty the soldiers have had coming back from these wars, that can arise from a single event or a series of events. And the effects are mediated through the autonomic nervous system and the hypothalamic-Pituitary-Adrenal axis. So the autonomic nervous system is the background system that sort of operates without our requiring our attention to modulate everything from your body temperature to your respiratory rate to your pain threshold to your sleep-wake cycles to your level of alertness to your immunologic function. And the hypothalamic-Pituitary-Adrenal, thyroid, gonadal systems are sort of the root of the endocrine system. And toxicity at those levels has to be cleared to optimize health and for effective healing of chronic illness. And that, interestingly, is where often, these background detox programs that people talk about can be helpful, or acupuncture therapies are helpful, or microcurrent therapies, and the mindfulness meditation that we teach here, or cognitive behavioral therapies are all very valuable in helping people have a more significant, if you would, healing or movement toward well-being. Next. So the toxins that we're all familiar with, the things from the environment, according to the United States Environmental Protection Agency back in 2002, and it hasn't gotten better, there's 7.1 million pounds of 650 industrial chemicals released in the air and water, 266 of which are linked to birth defects. And worldwide, the estimate is approaching 80 billion pounds of toxins released annually. And just because stuff gets released in China doesn't mean it's only a Chinese problem, because coal-fired power plants in China release their waste products, which are mercury-laden, among other things, into the atmosphere. And the winds of the atmosphere drop them on our country. Worldwide, some of these toxins affect human health in very tiny, tiny doses.